Every word we speak is a seed, and every seed holds the promise of a harvest. The tongue is not idle, it is the sculptor of our destiny, the brush that paints the canvas of our life. Words are not mere sounds carried by air, they are living currents of creative energy. Spoken with conviction, they become commands to the unseen forces that govern our affairs. Whispered with faith, they summon opportunities, open doors, and magnetize supply from the most unexpected directions. Truly, the word is our wand, and with it we write the script of prosperity or poverty, joy or lack. When one understands the power hidden in the spoken word, life ceases to be a matter of chance and begins to reveal itself as a matter of choice. The universe listens. It bends and shapes itself according to the tone of our declarations. Say, I cannot afford, and the universe nods in agreement, closing the avenues of wealth. Say, I am divinely provided for in every way, and invisible forces move to fill your cup until it overflows. What you speak today is the harvest you will gather tomorrow. The mind is the soil, the word is the seed. Faith is the sunlight that calls forth the growth. Riches are not merely piles of gold or the possession of material things. They are the fullness of life, the freedom to express, to create, to share, and to rejoice. When you hold to words of lack, you invite shadows. When you affirm words of abundance, you awaken light. It is not circumstance that rules you, but the continual stream of words you release. Many seek prosperity by toil alone, thinking riches are born from sweat and struggle. Yet countless toil and remain empty-handed. Why? Because their words betray them. They speak of fear, of shortage, of endless difficulty, and so they chain themselves to the very conditions they dread. The outer world is but a mirror reflecting the inner decree. Change the decree, and the mirror cannot help but change with it. The secret lies in wielding the word as a wand, not casually, not carelessly, but with reverence and precision. Each declaration is a command to substance, a call to the invisible storehouse of supply. Speak with certainty, I walk in a world of opulence, and all that is mine by divine right now comes to me with speed and ease. Such words do not fall empty, for they are clothed in the authority of truth. Life rushes to obey them, so let the lips become the channel of riches, not ruin. Let the tongue utter blessings, not curses. Let speech be guarded, for it is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. The key to attracting wealth lies not in struggle, but in the mastery of the word. Words are not idle sounds drifting into the air, they are seeds charged with the vitality of life itself. Every word carries weight, tone, and vibration, and each vibration sets in motion a stream of unseen activity that goes forth and returns multiplied. To one who understands this, speech becomes sacred, deliberate, and creative. A careless word is not without consequence, and a word spoken with faith and clarity is never without effect. The ancient teaching has always declared that in the beginning was the Word, for the Word is the first movement of creation. Nothing takes form without first being spoken, whispered, or declared in consciousness. When we say that words are living currents of creative energy that shape destiny, we affirm that the invisible molds of our future are constantly being cast through the medium of language. Think for a moment about the utterances of daily life, those casual phrases that slip past the lips without notice. I am always unlucky. Money never stays with me. I can't do this. It's too hard. Each of these statements is a decree, a command issued to the forces of creation. The mind, hearing them, begins to build experiences to match. The subconscious does not argue, it obeys. The universe does not resist, it reflects. Such words, though spoken without thought, take root in the fertile soil of the inner life, and in time, the harvest appears in the outer world. We become the authors of our own difficulties, not because life is cruel, but because we misuse the living currents that flow through us as speech. Now consider the opposite. I walk in a universe of supply. Every day brings me closer to my highest good. My words open doors no man can shut. I am guided, guarded, and prospered in all that I do. These utterances are also seeds, but they are charged with light, charged with faith, charged with expectancy. When released, they stir currents in the unseen realm. They summon ideas, opportunities, and circumstances aligned with their vibration. What was once closed begins to open. What was once hidden begins to appear. What was once delayed begins to move swiftly toward fulfillment. Words set these movements into action, and words sustain them until manifestation is complete. Destiny is not a fixed stone path laid down long before birth. Destiny is a garden, and we are planting it every hour. If weeds appear, it is because seeds of doubt, fear, or complaint were allowed to fall upon the ground. If blossoms of wealth and joy arise, it is because words of faith, courage, and expectancy were sown. No gardener can reap roses from nettles, nor figs from thistles. Likewise, no one can reap abundance from a language of poverty, or joy from a tongue that continually speaks of sorrow. Every word is a seed, and every seed contains within it a harvest of its own kind. Consider how even the simplest utterance can alter the course of events. A word of encouragement spoken to oneself in a moment of doubt can rekindle strength and allow success where failure seemed certain. A declaration of health repeated daily can shift the body's response, awakening dormant vitality and summoning the forces of healing. A spoken blessing over one's work can draw opportunities that seemed far beyond reach. These are not fantasies but demonstrations of the fact that words are alive, words are dynamic, and words are creative. The spoken word is the link between thought and form, the bridge by which invisible ideas cross into visible expression. It is not only the words we speak aloud that shape our path, but also the silent words of inner dialogue. The continual stream of thought, murmured quietly within, acts as a constant decree. Many guard their speech in public, but in the secrecy of the mind they repeat words of fear, failure, and limitation. The subconscious makes no distinction between the loud voice and the silent one. Both are creative, both carry power, both shape destiny. Therefore, it is not enough to speak affirmations in the morning and spend the rest of the day muttering words of complaint within. The entire current of thought and language must be brought into alignment with the truth of abundance and the expectancy of good. If one desires to see the true measure of this principle, let them observe how words influence even the smallest affairs. A person who constantly declares that time is short finds themselves always hurried, always pressed, always without enough hours. Another who affirms that time serves them well discovers that tasks fit smoothly, opportunities arrive on schedule, and delays are transformed into blessings. The difference is not in the clock but in the decree. Words shape the experience of time as surely as they shape the flow of wealth, health, or opportunity. There is a subtle power in words because they do not stop at the ears. Words penetrate. They enter the atmosphere of thought and set vibrations moving. They travel outward into the unseen and return carrying the forms they have called. They also travel inward, imprinting the subconscious, which acts as a faithful servant, directing body, mind, and circumstances to fulfill the command. When one declares with certainty, "I prosper in all my ways," that declaration travels both outward and inward, creating a resonance that attracts prosperity from without while training the inner faculties to recognize and seize it. There is no word without effect. Words spoken in anger, though forgotten by the speaker, still reverberate and return with their fruit. Words spoken in love, even softly and briefly, continue to expand and bless long after the moment has passed. The creative current within words cannot be extinguished once released. They go forth, and they accomplish according to their kind. This is why discipline of speech is essential, for without discipline, the wand of creation waves wildly, calling forth both weeds and flowers, both shadows and light. To live with the awareness that words are living currents is to stand at the threshold of mastery. One begins to listen before speaking, to weigh each phrase as if it were a coin spent in the marketplace of life. One chooses words of faith, of abundance, of joy, knowing that these words are not wasted breath but living decrees. One abandons idle chatter of lack or misfortune, for such words are not harmless, but seeds that grow into conditions we may later regret. Each utterance becomes intentional. each statement aligned with the vision of the life one seeks to manifest. The universe is not deaf, nor is it indifferent to the language of its children. Every utterance is heard, every vibration acknowledged, and every declaration answered in kind. There exists a great law of correspondence, a law that mirrors back to us the very substance of what we speak. When we say, "I am not able," the universe confirms our limitation. When we declare, "I have all I need supplied by divine right," the universe unfolds new channels to prove us correct. Words are not lost in space. They are living messages carried upon the ether, returning to us clothed in form. The universe is like an unfailing echo, repeating what has been spoken, magnified and multiplied. Observe how people speak of themselves and their affairs. One says, "I never get a fair chance." Another insists, "I am always struggling." A third claims, "There is never enough." These declarations, spoken often, become living molds that the universe rushes to fill. Circumstances rise up to prove the words true. Doors remain closed, opportunities slip away, and lack continues to haunt the path. It is not that life has chosen them for misfortune, but that their words have chosen misfortune for them. The universe is obedient, impartial, and exacting. It does not discriminate between positive and negative, between wealth and want. It only reflects. It only gives back what is spoken with the weight of belief. Now listen to the one who speaks differently. "Everything I need flows to me in perfect timing. All that belongs to me by divine right is making its way into my hands. I am favored, blessed, and prospered in all that I do." These are not idle words, but powerful decrees. The universe bends in their direction, opening doors that were closed, bringing allies into place, making crooked paths straight. Opportunities that seemed distant suddenly appear, and resources that seemed impossible to secure come forth with ease. What is the difference? It is not talent alone, nor circumstance, but the vibration of words. One tongue sows lack, and lack appears. Another tongue sows abundance, and abundance flows. The universe listens not only to what is said once, but to what is repeated, sustained, and charged with emotion. A single declaration of good may begin the movement, but continual declarations build momentum. Just as water wears away stone through persistence, so do spoken affirmations carve channels in the unseen, creating wide rivers of supply that can no longer be hindered. The universe responds to the steady music of words, aligning events, people, and opportunities to the tune that is sung. If the song is one of scarcity, scarcity becomes the reality. If the song is one of plenty, plenty becomes inevitable. There is a subtle truth in how the universe hears us. It does not attend merely to the words spoken with lips, but to the tone of belief that underlies them. To say, "I am rich," while secretly doubting, produces little, for the echo returned carries the vibration of doubt. But to say, "I am provided for," with full faith, with assurance, with expectancy, is to release a command that the universe cannot ignore. The words become clothed with power. They are no longer empty phrases but carriers of conviction, and conviction is the signal that moves the unseen into action. Consider the farmer casting seed upon the ground. He does not cast once and abandon the field, nor does he doubt the soil's capacity to yield. He casts daily, he waters faithfully, and he knows that in time the earth must return what has been planted. So it is with words. They are the seeds of destiny, and the universe is the soil that can never refuse them. If one plants weeds, weeds grow. If one plants wheat, wheat grows. The soil makes no judgment, it simply obeys. And so does the universe. It does not argue with us, it does not resist us, it does not deny us. It agrees with our speech, and it gives us the harvest of our declarations. Every complaint is a prayer, every statement of fear a request, every utterance a form of agreement with the forces of creation. To say, "I cannot find work," is to command that opportunities remain hidden. To declare, "I am always unlucky," is to instruct life to arrange itself according to misfortune. And yet, the power lies ever in the speaker's hands. Change the words, and the response of the universe must also change. Say instead, "I walk into the perfect work prepared for me," and soon the current shifts. Say, I am guided into favorable conditions, and conditions rearrange themselves to obey. It is impossible to separate speech from destiny, for destiny is written on the current of words. The tongue holds the power of life and death, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal law of creation. Words are seeds, words are commands, words are decrees. They travel into the unseen, find their kind, and return to the one who sent them. The universe listens with precision, and what it hears it delivers. Those who have trained themselves to guard speech become masters of circumstance. They do not allow careless chatter of misfortune to pass their lips, for they know that every careless phrase is a seed planted. They speak as creators, deliberate and purposeful, knowing that the universe attends every syllable. They affirm only that which they desire to see made manifest, and because of this discipline, their lives unfold in harmony and abundance. The undisciplined tongue scatters weeds and roses alike, and the undisciplined life reaps both. But the disciplined speaker sows only roses, and the universe, ever obedient, returns roses in abundance. Even the smallest phrases hold power. To continually say, "I am tired," is to summon weariness. To declare, "I cannot remember," is to instruct the mind to forget. To insist, "I am clumsy," is to train the body into awkwardness. On the other hand, to affirm, "I am strong," calls forth strength. To declare, "I remember with clarity," awakens the faculties of memory. To affirm, "I move with grace," trains the body into ease. The universe listens even to these small decrees, and life reshapes itself according to their vibration. The law is impartial, exact, and unchanging. It is not affected by who speaks, but by what is spoken. The wealthy and the poor, the strong and the weak, the favored and the forgotten, all alike are subject to the response of the universe to their words. No one is exempt, and no one is excluded. It is a law that governs alike the king and the beggar, the sage and the fool. Words go forth, and the universe echoes them back in form. Many believe that prosperity is the result of endless toil, of laboring day and night, of pushing against circumstances until doors finally break open. They imagine that riches are wrestled from life by sheer force, that the sweat of the brow alone is the price of abundance. Yet how often do we see those who work without ceasing, who strive with all their might, yet remain in want? Their days are filled with effort, yet their hands return empty. The missing key is not effort, but the words that proceed from their mouths. For words of lack, spoken in the midst of work, poison the harvest before it can ripen. Words of fear undo the very labor the hands have built. It is not toil that creates prosperity. It is the language of abundance carried on the breath of faith. A farmer may till the soil from dawn to dusk, but if he sows only weeds, he cannot expect a crop of wheat. Likewise, one may labor with great diligence, but if the tongue is continually uttering phrases of defeat and shortage, the result will reflect the words, not the effort. To say, "It will never be enough," while working with all strength, is to decree lack into existence. To complain, "I will always struggle," even while sowing seeds of effort, is to bind oneself to struggle. The universe does not reward effort alone, it rewards effort aligned with speech that declares abundance. Prosperity flows first from the unseen, then into the seen. Work without the right words is like planting without sunlight, it remains barren. Words of abundance act as the light that awakens the hidden seed of prosperity. When one speaks with confidence, "I prosper in everything I do," every task begins to flourish. When one declares, "All channels of supply are open to me," opportunities appear where none seemed possible. When one affirms, "I work with ease and am richly rewarded," the very labor of the hands is transformed into joy and returns multiplied results. Those who toil without guiding words are like sailors rowing without a compass. They may row with all their strength, but without direction. They drift endlessly. Words are the compass that sets the course, effort is the oar that propels the boat. Both are needed. But without the compass of affirmations, the oar of labor cannot deliver the sailor to the shore of prosperity. Many weary themselves with rowing, unaware that their words continually steer them in circles of lack. The wise understand that every word is a rudder turning the ship of their life, and they choose their speech carefully to point toward abundance. Observe the speech of those who live in plenty. They do not complain of shortage, they affirm supply. They do not speak of endless struggle, they declare ease. They do not say, "I can't afford this." They say, "Everything I need comes to me in perfect timing." Their words and their work move in harmony, and this harmony opens the gates of wealth. They labor? Yes, but they labor in the vibration of abundance, and so their labor is blessed. Their efforts, however small, yield large returns. For the language of prosperity draws multiplication from the universe. Prosperity cannot be forced through struggle, for struggle itself is a declaration. To say, "I must fight for every coin," is to bind oneself to fight. To say, "Nothing comes easily," is to decree difficulty in every direction. The mind, hearing these words, sets about creating conditions to prove them true. The subconscious, faithful to the commands of the tongue, sabotages ease and multiplies obstacles. But to speak, "Riches flow to me freely," releases a different command. The subconscious aligns with ease, and circumstances arrange themselves to provide smooth paths. Life bends toward the decree, and abundance becomes effortless. Even in work, it is not the heaviness of effort that matters but the spirit carried in words. One may spend an hour in labor while affirming, "This work is blessed, and it prospers me greatly." And that hour may yield more than another man's week of toil spoken under the curse of complaint. The weight of effort does not determine the harvest, the vibration of speech does. For speech calls forth invisible allies, unseen currents that multiply results beyond what hands alone could achieve. It is a deception to think that money and supply come from effort alone. If this were true, the hardest workers in the world would be the richest. Yet many who strain endlessly live in scarcity, while others, who speak words of abundance, attract wealth with less labor. The difference lies not in merit, but in the power of the spoken decree. Prosperity flows from words first, then manifests through channels that may include labor. But labor without affirmations is like a stream cut off from its source. The stream dries up, no matter how much the man at the riverbank digs. Consider the shopkeeper who rises daily with the declaration, "Every person who enters this shop brings blessings, and I am prospered by divine supply." His business thrives, not only because of his wares, but because his words magnetize customers and opportunities. Compare him with another who mutters, "Business is always slow, people never buy, nothing ever works for me." Though he works as long and as hard, his words repel the very prosperity he seeks. The universe listens, and it obeys. Words of abundance do not only attract money, they transform the very experience of work. A labor that once seemed heavy becomes light when blessed by affirmations. A task that seemed meaningless reveals hidden reward when spoken over with gratitude and expectancy. Even the simplest duty prospers when words of increase accompany it. The worker no longer labors as a slave to circumstance, but as a co-creator with life itself, speaking riches into existence with every phrase. The mistake of many is believing that toil is the source of wealth. Toil is only the channel, words are the source. The channel can be dug wider or deeper, but if no current flows into it, it remains empty. Words of abundance summon the current. They call forth the flow that fills the channel of labor with substance. One who works without affirmations digs canals that remain dry. One who speaks words of supply finds that even small channels overflow. The law is simple: speech sets the vibration, effort gives it form. When speech is in harmony with abundance, effort multiplies. When speech is filled with lack, effort diminishes. Words are the true fountain of prosperity. Labor is the vessel. The vessel without the fountain remains empty, but the vessel connected to the fountain overflows. The spoken word is not a mere sound that vanishes once uttered. It is a wand, a living instrument of command, a channel through which unseen substance is directed into visible form. When one understands this truth, every utterance becomes sacred, for each syllable is a decree sent forth to summon conditions, events, and experiences. The careless speak without awareness, and wonder why their lives seem bound to difficulty. Yet the wise recognize that each word carries the power of a spell, shaping reality according to its vibration. The word is the wand, and with precision it can summon prosperity from the storehouse of the infinite. To speak with certainty is to wield the wand with strength. A vague statement carries little power, but a precise declaration strikes directly at the substance of creation. When one affirms with clarity, "I walk in a world of opulence, and all that is mine by divine right comes to me," the wand has been lifted, and the invisible begins to move. The forces that govern supply take the command and begin their arrangement. People, opportunities, and circumstances shift in obedience to the utterance. The words spoken are not wasted breath, they are currents of creative energy, vibrating through the ether, clothed in authority, and destined to return with fulfillment. Every declaration is a command to substance. When one says, "I am always poor," that phrase is a command, and substance obeys by withholding riches. When one says, "I cannot succeed," that is also a command, and life arranges itself to confirm the decree. Yet when one dares to speak differently, "I am divinely prospered in every way," the command goes forth into the unseen, summoning new channels of wealth, new paths of success, new opportunities where none appeared before. The wand has no power of its own apart from the words that direct it, but when words are spoken in faith, the wand creates with unfailing precision. It is not enough to think abundance. The thought must be clothed in sound, for thought alone is like a spark, while speech is like the flame. The spark may glow silently, but the flame spreads, moves, and transforms. Words spoken aloud carry vibration beyond the self. They travel outward and stir currents in the unseen realm. To think, "I prosper," begins the process, but to say, "I prosper in everything I do," ignites the power, calls forth the energy, and sets in motion the law of manifestation. Speech is the wand in action, drawing invisible substance into visible form. Those who understand this law speak as creators, not as beggars. They do not plead for supply, for pleading acknowledges lack. Instead, they command with authority, declaring that which they know is already theirs by right. To say, "Wealth flows to me freely," is not a wish but a command, not a hope but a decree. The universe does not resist such words, for they are spoken in alignment with truth, and truth always finds expression. The wand does not falter when lifted with conviction. It acts with exactness, summoning riches from the unseen to the seen. Precision of language is vital. A vague phrase such as, "I want more money," produces little, for it acknowledges wanting, and wanting only multiplies itself. But a statement such as, "I am supplied with all that I require, quickly and abundantly," carries weight, it carries authority, it speaks from the position of having, not from the shadow of lack. The universe responds to certainty, not to wavering. The wand obeys the clarity of the command, not the confusion of doubt. The one who speaks with firmness finds their words swiftly clothed in form, while the one who hesitates receives little. For hesitation creates no clear image to be obeyed. The wand of the word does not operate in isolation from faith. Words spoken without faith are empty. They scatter like chaff in the wind. But words spoken with inner conviction are seeds planted in fertile soil. The inner belief clothes the words with substance, giving them life. When one says, "I am guided into prosperity," and believes it with the whole heart, that phrase becomes a living decree. Invisible powers stir to fulfill it. Events align, opportunities appear. The wand has been raised with certainty, and certainty always brings manifestation. Many labor under the belief that words are insignificant, that only action counts. But they do not see that words themselves are actions of the highest order. The movement of the tongue is the movement of creation. A phrase uttered in faith carries more power than days of effort without affirmation. For effort without the wand of words is blind, but words direct effort, multiplying it, blessing it, transforming it into prosperity. The worker who speaks blessings over their labor reaps greater results than one who labors without utterance. The merchant who declares prosperity over their business draws more customers than one who relies only on advertising. The word is the wand, and without it labor is empty. To wield the word as a wand is to understand the responsibility of speech. Idle chatter of lack or fear is no small matter. It is misuse of the wand, a careless casting of spells that return with unpleasant fruit. To continually say, "It never works out," is to cast a spell against one's own prosperity. To repeat, "I am always unlucky," is to wield the wand toward misfortune. Every phrase carries power, whether spoken consciously or unconsciously. The wise therefore guard their tongue, releasing only those words they wish to see clothed in form. The spoken word is also a shield. To declare, "Nothing and no one can hinder the riches that are mine by divine right," is to wield the wand as a defense. Obstacles melt before such a decree. Conditions that seemed immovable shift under its power. The spoken word not only calls forth riches, but clears the path for them to arrive. With one phrase, barriers dissolve, and the way is made plain. The wand does not only summon, it protects, guides, and clears. The key is constancy. One must lift the wand daily, not once and then forget, but again and again, until the air vibrates with the certainty of the decree. Each repetition strengthens the command, driving it deeper into the subconscious, carrying it farther into the unseen. Just as the sculptor strikes the stone again and again until the form emerges, so must words be spoken until the form of prosperity appears. It is not vain repetition, but purposeful command, each phrase shaping substance, each utterance directing power. To speak prosperity is to command prosperity, and to command prosperity is to create it. The wand of the word does not tire, it does not weaken, it does not fail. It obeys without question, it summons without hesitation, it creates without limit. Words spoken with precision and faith are the true instruments of wealth. Labor may move matter, but words move the unseen forces that govern matter. Words are the wand, and the wand obeys the hand that lifts it with authority. Guarded speech is the doorway through which riches enter life. To guard one's words is to stand watch at the threshold of creation, choosing carefully which decrees are permitted to pass into the unseen. For every utterance is a bridge, carrying thought into form, shaping the substance of destiny. Words spoken without care are like gates thrown open to thieves, allowing poverty and confusion to slip in unchallenged. Words spoken with faith and purpose are like gates that admit only guests of honor, only the treasures of abundance, only the blessings that enrich and uplift. To understand this is to hold the key to the visible expression of wealth. For guarded, faith-filled speech is the very bridge by which unseen riches cross into the world of matter. Every day the tongue moves ceaselessly, and with each phrase something is set in motion. One speaks of shortage, and shortage appears. Another speaks of delay, and delay rises up to block the way. Still another declares, "Nothing works out for me." And the universe, ever obedient, arranges circumstances to reflect the decree. Most do not realize that their lives are filled not with accidents, but with the echoes of their own words. They curse themselves without knowing, sowing seeds of failure with casual phrases, then wondering why the harvest is bitter. To guard speech is to put an end to this carelessness, to refuse the utterance of anything one does not wish to see made flesh. Faith-filled speech is more than positive talk, it is the vibration of certainty expressed in sound. Words spoken in fear carry no power to bless, for the tone of fear is the true command the universe obeys. But words spoken in faith are clothed with life, and life rushes to obey. To say, "I am provided for in every way," with conviction, is to build a bridge so strong that no force of doubt can collapse it. Supply travels across that bridge, opportunities cross it, divine provision marches over it, until it stands visible in the world of form. Without such words, the riches of the unseen remain distant, shimmering but unreachable. With such words, they step across into the life of the speaker. Speech is not only a bridge for wealth, it is also a guard at the gate. When one refuses to speak of failure, the gate is closed to failure. When one declines to complain of lack, the gate is shut against lack. When one turns aside idle chatter of misfortune, the gate is locked to misfortune. The mouth becomes a sentinel, allowing only the language of prosperity to pass, and by this vigilance, the world reshapes itself. Words of blessing invite blessing, words of praise invite increase, words of gratitude summon multiplication. Guarded speech is not repression. It is selection. It is not silence born of fear, but speech born of wisdom. There is a sacred responsibility in words, for each one is a seed that cannot be recalled once sown. The careless say, "It doesn't matter what I say." But their lives bear witness to the truth that it matters greatly. The seeds of yesterday's speech are the fruits of today's conditions. If the harvest is bitter, it is because bitter words were planted. If the harvest is sweet, it is because sweet words were chosen. Guarding speech means sowing with foresight, planting only what one wishes to reap, never scattering seeds of doubt, fear, or complaint. Faith-filled words create bridges where none seem possible. In the desert of apparent lack, a single declaration can open a path to flowing rivers. When one says, "The supply I need now appears," and speaks it not as wish but as fact, unseen forces move at once to fulfill the decree. Opportunities are drawn forth from hidden places, channels open, doors swing wide. The bridge has been laid, and riches cross it. Without such words one wanders the desert, working and striving but never finding water. With such words, the oasis appears and abundance becomes visible. Guarded speech also transforms inner life. The thoughts of the heart are constantly seeking expression through the lips. When one disciplines the tongue, the mind begins to follow, reshaping itself according to the new standard. Speak enough of abundance, and the inner dialogue of lack begins to dissolve. Declare often that life blesses and prospers you, and soon even the silent whispers of doubt grow faint. Guarding words trains the mind into alignment. And when mind and mouth agree in faith, the bridge becomes indestructible. The bridge of speech is not built by a single phrase, but by the continual stream of declarations. Each affirmation is a plank laid down, each word of faith another stone set in place. Over time, the bridge grows strong and wide, carrying ever greater riches across. Just as rivers cut canyons by persistence, so does persistent speech carve channels for abundance. One day's declaration may seem to shift little, but continued utterance shapes the whole landscape of life. Faith-filled repetition is not empty, it is construction. Each phrase is a builder's hand, raising the span that connects unseen wealth to visible reality. Guarded speech is not limited to affirmations of prosperity alone, it also forbids negative prophecy. To say "this will never work" is to lay a plank of failure across the bridge, weakening it. To declare, "things always go wrong," is to invite collapse. To guard speech is to tear up these planks the moment they appear, replacing them with words of strength, words of victory, words of certainty. This works in my favor. Everything unfolds for my good. I am surrounded by divine order. With such words the bridge remains strong, and no weight of circumstance can break it. Even in the face of visible lack, faith-filled speech sustains the bridge. One may look upon an empty purse and still declare, "My supply is abundant and ever-flowing." One may see a closed door and still affirm, "The right opportunity opens for me now." The guarded tongue does not yield to appearances, it speaks from truth, not from fear. By this discipline, the bridge is held firm until the unseen becomes seen, until the purse fills, until the door swings wide. The lips become the channel through which destiny is written. To guard them is to guard the future. To fill them with faith is to ensure that the future is rich. Words are not idle, they are builders, guards, and bridges. To let them wander is to invite chaos, to discipline them is to invite prosperity. Every phrase is a choice between lack and abundance, between ruin and riches. To choose words of faith is to choose wealth, to choose words of doubt is to choose want. The decision is made each moment the tongue moves, and the universe responds without fail.